maybe it's better to rent. Right, and there's so much inventory coming on in the next 36 months, and I'm kind of like, I would like to sort of see what else.
Some people. Anyway, so we have some people on Zoom. I would like to do self-introduction, but first, well, I'll start with that. Steve Hudson, and I am chair of the DDA this year. I've been for I think 3 or 4 years now, and this reimagining Huizenga Park has been on our agenda for a little bit here. And it really took in high gear maybe last year. And there's a lot of pieces and parts to it. For me personally, I'm not sure, I think everybody may know, but Wayne Huizenga was my uncle. And so personal meaning to me to see this park, and not just reimagine as you know, it's just some downtown park, but you know, me personally working on it, it has personal meaning, you know. And so the fountain was very important. We went through lots of iterations on different pieces and parts. Like I said, the board's been working on this for over a year plus now, right, Jen? So I really want to thank all of you for being here and taking an interest. As you know, downtown parks are such an important part of the livelihood of our downtown. And what has been built here, I think originally it was more imagined as a downtown with many offices, but as we've evolved, there's so many residential units and these parks are so very important. So thanks again for being here. We'll go around the room. I'm going to start with Shane.
All right. Shane Strum, CEO for Broward Health. I'm really here for Steve. I am. Let know, but you know, support anything, but this is really a great thing for our community. So I'm happy to be here and helping. And I love that you're doing it in person. No offense to Senator Lemieux, who's only a few doors down in the building, but I think the face-to-face is wonderful. Thank you.
We'll drag him in later.
Carla Nelson Thatcher, the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Relations for Hotwire Communications. We're a fiber optic provider. This is one of our buildings. We do large enterprise services, work with developers, and do public Wi-Fi engagement across the United States.
Good morning, everyone. Joe Cox, President and CEO of Museum of Discovery and Science, and big fans of the work that the DDA's done, and really excited to see what happens in the park. You know, the more vibrancy we have downtown, it's just going to be fantastic. So really excited.
Thanks, Ken Stiles, CEO of Stiles Corporation. Welcome to being here. Thank you for all the work you did here.
Thank you.
No, I saw this on the calendar and I was extremely excited too. As Steve said with Mr. Huizenga, deep connection with the park with my dad and Wayne. And as you said, it's time for a change there, and I think it could be pretty incredible. So
I'm Patrick Campbell. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Condo Division at the Related Group. So we've done a lot down here. We've been involved in it for a long time, and it's great to see that as the city's becoming a 24-hour city, that we're starting to reimagine the key features of it that bring people outside and bring people together. So when Jenny asked me to come, I was super excited because it's something that is our backbone, is making downtown viable.
Jake Warzak, I'm the CEO of Dove Hill Capital Management, and we're a vertically integrated hospitality investor. We own some hotels here in Fort Lauderdale and throughout the country. And personally, landscaping and parks are really important in my life, and I get really excited about it. And having worked on projects elsewhere, you see what other places are doing, and we always want to make Fort Lauderdale better. And it's amazing what's happened over the past 10+ years since I've lived here. So we want to contribute, and grateful to be working with all of you.
Good morning. I'm Jenny Motorhone. I'm the president and CEO of the Fort Lauderdale Downtown Development Authority. And Ken, thank you so much for hosting us today. I really appreciate it. I'll be talking a lot through the meeting, so that was a nice, simple introduction.
Hi there, I'm Elizabeth Van Zandt. I'm with the Fort Lauderdale Downtown Development.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Clearwater, Director and Chief Curator at SU Art Museum. I can't wait for my new front lawn.
Hi, I'm Karine Boutros, the Executive Director of the Broward Workshop and also co-chairing the Downtown Coalition with Jenny. And also, this is a personal meeting to me too, because Mr. H and Terry were lifelong members of the Broward Workshop. So it means a lot to me, and I've been a lifelong resident of Broward, so I'm happy to see all the changes. Looking forward to it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Medley, the Executive Director for the Urban Land Institute here in Southeast Florida and the Caribbean. And I'm excited for this day because ULI has been involved in a few of the pre-steps leading up to this. So excited to just stay involved with the effort. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Lori Wheeler, Vice President of the Marine Industries Association of South Florida. Owners of the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show, for those of you that are not aware. And I'm super excited to hear more about this. I know we've been talking about it in the downtown coalition meetings and things like that. So I'm really excited about this. So thanks for having me.
Last but not least, or no, I guess, Jim Fritz, JP Morgan Private Bank. We will be the tenant on the 24th floor. So we look forward to that. We're kind of in the permitting abyss. So we will soon get up there. But yeah, I've been a long time I guess banker in Broward County. I knew your father and I knew Mr. Huizenga. So it's really good to see this happening. Thank you, Jenny, for inviting me. I remember the first time we met and we talked about this and she laid out the poster and the vision and the whole thing. And I said, when this really does take flight, include me. So I'm very happy to be here.
We have one more at the table.
Hi, sorry, I was a touch late. I
No
got
problem.
stuck in rain traffic. Adrienne Zalkin, I'm the Director of Marketing with Styles. Jim, I know who you can call about all that permitting.
Yes. You're gonna be my best friend.
It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm filling in for Scott's Big Shoes today, so just getting a lay of the land, and I know some background. Really excited to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Gary Johnson, I'm serving as legal counsel for the foundation. And then if we could go through those that are online, I have no idea where your squares are. Just you go.
Okay, I'll start. This is Jody Tanner. Hi, guys. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I have a business on Las Olas Capital Advisors, Las Olas Capital Arts. I'm on the Broward Cultural Council and I'm the Vice President of the Las Olas Association. I'm happy to be here. So thank you guys for the invite.
Good morning. I'll jump in. Ken Krasnow, I'm Vice Chairman at Colliers, very involved with DDA and City of Fort Lauderdale. Very excited about this project. I'm actually up in New York now, which was where my roots are, and I saw how was very involved in Bryant Park and how that completely transformed the neighborhood here in New York, and I'm looking forward to seeing the same thing down at Huizenga. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Peggy Yolen. I'm the CEO of One World Properties. Couldn't be more excited to be among all of you. Such good friends here together, just getting together for an incredible mission. And as a mother and as a resident of Fort Lauderdale, and as my business takes me around to pitch to developers to come to the area and work alongside of them, creating the walkability and the really sense of place of the community is fantastic. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to it.
Good morning, everybody. Kelly Shanley, President and CEO of the Broward Center. Great to be with all of you today. I think the thing I want to say is I'm excited about this project, but I'm appreciative of the leadership of the DDA. They always seem to demonstrate ambition and think about what's next and rally the community towards that goal. So this is what's next, and I think it's pretty exciting. So I'm happy to be here and help in whatever way I can.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kathy Donnelly. I am the Director of Community Relations for the Castle Group, but I'm actually here today sitting with a very, how should I say, selfish lens looking at all of this, because I live in Las Olas River House, which is the beautiful condominium right next door. And every morning, James and I sit at our kitchen table, drinking our coffee, looking out at all the folks enjoying that beautiful park. And we're just thrilled to know that we're going to improve it. And I'm just happy to see that we're keeping the integrity of what's being used in the park already. It's a very active park. During COVID, we really saw an increase in the sports that are going on there. So I know that's going to be an interesting transition. but the dogs that are there, the people that are there, the children, the picnicking, it's a great park, and I know we're going to make it even better. So I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is George Lemieux. I'm the chairman of the Gunster Law Firm, and I also have the privilege of being the incoming chair of the Broward Center. So I can work with Kelly and our great team over there. I'm born and raised in Broward County. Love our city. Grateful to Steve for asking me to be a part of this. Grateful that Steve waived the minimum height requirement so Shane could participate. Never let me go last, Shane.
Yeah, you won.
Great cities have great parks, and Fort Lauderdale is on its way of being a great city, and the Huizenga Park can only be better and better. So I'm happy to be a part of this. My firm's been in South Florida for 97 years, and we really care about our community, and we want to be a part of this great project. So thank you.
Thank you. Is that everybody from TV land? I think so. Well, again, thank you very much. And yes, Ken, thanks for opening up your doors. You know, this, the part, Jenny's gonna go through this in more detail, but I remember when you and I was down here, it's almost now 3 years ago, and walked all of downtown and gave us all their recommendations. Their first recommendations or observation was, why is there a jail on the river? Yeah, no, they couldn't get over it, and they get it. Unfortunately, that's not going anywhere. But you know, close second to that was how important parks were when we started talking about, you know, whether it was the one-stop shop or Tunnel Top Park or, you know, back to Huizenga. So we all know how vital it is. Again, I appreciate you all being here. We haven't actually asked you to do anything yet, so I'm not sure how many of you are going to be here at the end, but I appreciate you being here. But the fact that you are here and you accept it is you have that same love for our city and for this park and where we're going. And you've already read a little bit of the material, so I appreciate that. Personally, I truly appreciate that. I'm going to hand it over to Jenny, and she's going to go through lots of stuff.
Okay, great. We have a slide deck really to help kind of give you a tour through how this park is going to be reimagined and also some of the efforts that we've taken to get to this point. We didn't just wake up as a DDA board and a team saying, let's do something in the park. This has really been an initiative that I think the DDA has long strived to take on, and the timing is just now perfect to really implement this new vision. So, you know, many of you, there's going to be a bit of a lag, so just bear with me as I learn how to scroll. Or not. 1 second. One second. We were set. Screen share to PowerPoint. Okay. Who hasn't been at Huizenga Park? Let's start with that. It is truly the heart and soul of downtown. I don't know if I can get to full screen mode, but we'll just keep
Go
going.
bottom left, I think there's a little.
Good. Okay. Really the heart and soul of downtown Fort Lauderdale, the intersection of probably the original street, the New River in Fort Lauderdale and Andrews Avenue. It's probably a 5-minute walk to now 5,000 at least residential units, many of which you have built and styles as well. So, I mean, this is truly the center and the heartbeat of downtown, part of a bigger park network. And, you know, the park, as we heard Kathy say, has wonderful assets, but it was built at a time when really no one stayed downtown after working hours or on the weekend. So it was designed kind of one-dimensionally to bring a lot of people in, to focus a lot of energy on a stage. And with that, it worked. But, you know, times have evolved and people have different needs. As we said, parks are critical infrastructure for growing cities. And we want to really try to address a lot of the constraints and challenges that the park has today while celebrating some of the assets like the river, the fountain, and the wonderful green space. So we mentioned that the park is named after Wayne H. Huizenga, how important he was to this community. The DDA owned this property since the 70s when we purchased about a dozen acres or more of land and ultimately gave much of that land back to the civic community. That's where the Broward Center is today, the Museum of Art, much of the Riverwalk, Esplanade Park. But we kept this piece of land saying, you know, what should we do with it? And as I mentioned, we built it as a way to draw people back into the downtown core. And it's been really exciting to see its successful use for about 30 years. But unfortunately, it gets used probably a dozen to 20 times a year very actively. And the rest of the time, in some ways, sits kind of fallow. And so there have been planning studies and master plan visioning efforts. I've been involved in these for probably 15 plus years with folks like Kelly, where we've really envisioned how to make the banks of the New River, north and south, really just come to life. And fortunately, through a lot of private investment, that's been happening. So now it's time to really focus on our public spaces. And as we mentioned, with Julie's help, we received a grant from the Urban Land Institute back in 2019, brought in a whole team of experts from around the country. They had no skin in the game, very different perspectives from, you know, land planning, design, environmental, financing, to say, how do successful cities transform parks? How do they make sure that they're sustainable from an operations standpoint for the long run? They interviewed about 150 community members, spent a week in town, and delivered an entire report. And we have a copy of one of those on the table. You're more than welcome to look at it. We have digital copies as well, but that was right before COVID hit. And we were so excited to take all of these recommendations, not just for Huizenga Park, but for downtown parks, to the city commission and really help inform the city's parks bond. But then time kind of stopped for a moment. So we took the effort to keep the recommendations going from this group and really focus them in on Huizenga Park itself. Subsequent to that, one of our team members, Matthew, who was here a bit earlier, he's our innovation manager, and he really is kind of the Google search on the team to go and do deep dives in what works best in other precedents. So another report that we have on the table, we studied 6 different urban parks that recently have either been completely developed from scratch or transformed from older parks. And we looked at not just the design, the activation and the uses, but what are the business models? How do they operate and maintain those? What are the partnerships needed to bring those parks to life? And so we've learned some wonderful lessons, developed some relationships from leaders around the entire country, and a lot of their successes and best practices drove what we're doing here today. So last year, the DDA hired Perkins and Will, nationally, globally renowned firm. They have offices here in Miami, and with a team of consultants, including Dan Biederman, who was instrumental in transforming Bryant Park in New York, and also advises for groups like ours around the country. We have put together a vision, working with our board of directors and members of the community. We've had dozens of stakeholder meetings with city folks, with residents, with adjacent property owners, with Riverwalk, to really understand what works in the park, what needs to change, and how do we move it forward. So again, you saw the aerial, you pretty much know the layout today. You can be walking on the Riverwalk down in this area and not necessarily know there's a river next to you. You're a bit separated, but you can be walking there and not even know a park is on the other side, and vice versa. If you're in the park, you know, do you really get to experience the waterway of Fort Lauderdale? We really looked at this space from the front doors of the Museum of Art to the lobby of the Hyatt Centric to the base of the River House condo and over through under the Andrews Avenue Bridge to really look at a seamless space, totaling a little over 4 acres. And we thought it was important to keep a majority of the trees. You know, trees are so important for shade, for that natural respite feeling you have in a green space. So we kept most of the trees that ring the walkway. But what we did was transform how you move in this park. It is only about 4 acres from the water's edge to the streets in both sides, but how do you create a high-performing park space? Well, you do that by creating multiple rooms, outdoor rooms in a park that serve unique purposes. We've also included some new amenities in the park that all world-class urban parks include, particularly public bathrooms. A great point of discussion during many workshops over the past 6+ months. But what we've learned from successful park leaders around the country is it's imperative to have clean, maintained, and attended public bathrooms that allow increased dwell time by people who want to come and enjoy the park. So we are looking to include public bathrooms, a small area for concessions, hopefully celebrating some of our local businesses. So you can grab a cup of coffee, a snack, maybe a beer, and really enjoy the park, but also a formal restaurant that we have entered into a LOI with and are negotiating a lease within the next 2 months to have a restaurant that really bridges the activation from the Riverwalk in through the park. But also key to that is to provide a financial revenue stream that allows us to successfully operate and maintain this park for many, many decades and generations to come. So the site plan, you know, if you have all the trees in there, you still have a wonderful big civic lawn, but you do have this very nice flow throughout. You kind of peel back all the trees, and we're adding about 100 new trees, keeping all of our stately trees, but you can see this much more kind of flowing and seamless approach through the park. So now I'm just going to kind of rapid fire go through some renderings and take you on a tour. If you imagine entering the park down here at Las Olas and First Avenue, and we're going to walk past kind of the restaurant, up through the Riverwalk, next to the Andrews Avenue Bridge, up by the fountain, and finish back up. And these are the renderings that you've seen around the room. You know, the design ethic that we're going for is a very elegant, sophisticated, relaxed vibe, really taking the design excellence of public spaces in Fort Lauderdale to the next level, something that I don't think we necessarily see in many of our, especially downtown public spaces. So, you know, landscaping that's natural, that's easy to maintain, quality walkway materials, high quality designed street furniture and benches, lots of shade. We're looking to add unique kind of flowing walkways where they gradually increase, both with stairs, but also ramps. So you get to enjoy this space at different levels. Outdoor dining terraces, both for the public with movable tables and chairs, but also for the restaurant itself. So you can experience the wonderful vibe on the water or looking back into the park. Bringing the Riverwalk walkway out closer to the water's edge. You know, everyone loves when we partnered with Riverwalk and built the new walkway in front of the Stranahan House and down by related property. You know, you're right on the edge of the water, and that's what people really enjoy when you're in Fort Lauderdale. So bringing that walkway out and preserving a very large legacy centennial oak tree that's currently in that location. Creating new, as I mentioned, outdoor rooms and some neat ways to interface between the Riverwalk and the park itself. An idea that there's a deck. And, you know, what's kind of interesting, we've been looking at old photos. I think Robert Lockery sent us a few. I think his grandfather owned some of the property where the park is today. There was actually a restaurant called The Deck right about in this location. We had no idea as we were designing this, so it's kind of fun. But very flexible spaces that can be used again throughout the day, throughout the week by multiple people. Closer to the water's edge, interesting seating options where you could, you know, bring your laptop, work outside, maybe groups from, you know, the museum come out and have classes there, but really just trying to create new opportunities and new spaces. And again, really just connecting the Riverwalk into the park. We're looking at creating spaces for kids and all of those young at heart that don't scream playground or traditional play spaces, but really integrate into the park. So these are some fun play mounds where, you know, you can run up and down. Under the Andrews Avenue Bridge, we're working with our partners at Broward County to really try to advocate and influence a change of thinking of how under the bridge works. Instead of kind of a dark, ugly, you know, not great place, this is now shaded from the elements, and you could have markets and events and yoga classes under the bridge. So how do we still allow for some utilitarian work, but also, you know, have a place that seamlessly connects both sides? Spaces for our furry friends. As Kathy mentioned, right now Huizenga is the unofficial dog park, and it's kind of a free for all, off leash. We know people are going to come back and want to use the park, but we want to give them a dedicated space. So we're having a dog run, fenced in, you know, very appropriate setting, artificial turf, highly maintained throughout the day and the year. You know, interesting areas where you could sit and relax that provide some sculptural activity in the park, you know, terraced areas with crushed granite where you have a mix of kind of ground cover, again, creating these unique spaces through the park. So this is a concept rendering of the bathroom. It may or may not end up being built exactly like this, but really trying to elevate, again, the design style. So it's not just a box. So, you know, if it's a glassed enclosed entry, you feel very safe, open area and lit to walk into private stalls. This would also serve as a dual pumps house for our fountain. So we're working with architectural firms to really come up with what makes most sense for this fairly small but unique architectural piece in the park. And then moving over to the fountain, you know, the fountain was very important when the park was built. It still is. It's very iconic to that intersection, and people identify with the park as entering with the fountain. So we're simply looking to really reface it and bring it up to the next level, future thinking. But activate those jets, make it even more of a visual, iconic piece at the corner. And then walking back through, again, outdoor terraces, shaded areas where you could go to the concessionaire any time of the day, you know, grab a bite to eat, meet a friend, read a book, a place for casual meetings, a place to come together. And celebrating the civic lawn. This is so important. Right now, there's kickball leagues out there. I see folks playing, you know, softball. We do have our large events. We're looking to transform Huizenga Park from a large event only park to a place where you can still have a group of people come together for big events, but that's not the only use. So it's important to keep a lawn, but make it a lawn that you can really enjoy even when an event is not taking place. So this is really our vision for the park in terms of high level schedule and how we're going to fund this. And Elizabeth will get into some more details, but we're wrapping up design this fall. We anticipate being able to let a construction contract by the end of the calendar year or soon after the new year, and having about a 16 to 18 month construction timeframe so that we could reopen the park in this newly designed fashion sometime mid 2024. We are about at 90% design status. We just presented those plans to our board this past week. And our current 60% cost estimates are for about a $15 million capital project. So we have been so fortunate to receive close to $1 million in the governor's budget. And thank you, Shane and Chair Hudson, for really pushing that effort and request forward. DDA has already spent about $1 million of our own bond funding to get to this stage, and we've committed dollars to bring it to construction. But we're also using additional bond dollars and the revenue from the restaurant lease to contribute about 1/3 of the construction costs. The city of Fort Lauderdale, they have their budget hearings coming up, but we're fortunate as well to have a capital request spread over multiple years in next year's city budget. That has been supported by the city's budget advisory board and the Fort Lauderdale Commission. So that is another 1/3 of the capital costs. And then through the foundation, we have a goal to raise $5 million for the upfront construction cost. So through this kind of tiered, layered approach, we think we can bring the vision of this park to life and do it relatively quickly, so we can all take advantage of this wonderful new space. So this has truly been something from a personal and professional level that I couldn't be more proud to work on. And with a leader like Steve Hudson at the DDA and now through this foundation, I think this is really the proof of concept I mentioned to Shane earlier. And when we're successful here, we have an opportunity to replicate this at Esplanade Park and with new parks throughout downtown. So this really is the world-class city that we all, I think, believe in and are working hard to make. So that's our presentation of the park vision and the direction that we're going. And we can answer any questions at this time if you'd like, or if you have. And I'm sorry, my back's to everyone, but
I wanted to just add, having a safe park, right, is paramount. And with it activated, all but I think 8 hours of the day, something like that. Security is important, but it's the activation, having people there all the time that keeps the unwanted element away. And so, people get nervous about the restroom, but listening to some of the experts that have done this in different areas, if it's attended, it's clean, then the ultimate goal is that mom feels comfortable with bringing their son or daughter in there. And so if we, that's the goal, and you succeed there, and it's a safe park for people to use. And the activation is so key. The restaurant is an interesting piece to it. It's such a perfect spot. So as Jay said, we're working with a top operator, national firm. They've got restaurants all over. Very, very well qualified to do this and do it right. So anyway, I just wanted to add a couple pieces. Kathy's got her hand up.
My question is, I don't see any art in the park. Did we make a decision not to add the art?
No, there's we have put that on hold, but it's there. We definitely need art in public spaces. I am not the artist, so I'm not leading that charge, but it is in the park, yes.
and I think with your involvement with Bonnie and, with others that are definitely involved through the Art Council, we can now at this level start to incorporate what those best ideas are and how that works into the park.
Thank you.
Anybody questions, comments?
I understand absolutely the need to have a retail operation such as a restaurant, totally on board. Have you gotten any pushback regarding parking that might be needed because that restaurant is there, and how do we plan on managing it?
Sure, great question. So we've had, as I mentioned, many stakeholder meetings, and some of the adjacent property owners are, questioning and maybe a bit concerned of how all of the circulation works. That is a cul-de-sac. You have your adjacent buildings that have their loading and so forth. So with the restaurant operator in particular, from a parking standpoint, they will have a valet operation. We just met with them last week to start really understanding the due diligence of what happens there already. There's an adjacent city parking garage, the Riverwalk Center garage. It's north of Las Olas, but there's an opportunity there. FAU has some surface lots that we're talking and coordinating with FAU right now on. But we think that there's actually an opportunity to improve the conditions on that street and, organize and coordinate the loading, the trash management. This restaurant company, again, they're top notch, and they understand how important it is to have successful operations for the success of their own venue. And so, I think the other side to think of is, we're not going to make everyone happy, because in urban areas, when you don't necessarily have to have on-site parking, you do have to have a bit of flexibility in how you think about how this site's accessed. But we've learned some great lessons from some other restaurants along the boulevard, and how valet and different operations need to work to be successful. Yeah.
Go on.
I didn't know if that was a yes. Our school groups really use the park. They come with thousands of kids from Broward. They come for the field trip in the museum, and then they go out and they have their run around and lunchtime. So, so it'd be great if there was something a little closer and covered, because it also rains a lot. That they use, but also one of the things that's been really important for the park in relation to the museum, it does form a barrier for floods from storms. And I like that you've left a lot of green space, but has that been considered how it could act like a major like a huge swale, basically, to collect all the runoff.
Yes, yes, and I think in these urban parks around the country, we've seen where they have multiple uses, and in some, they're really addressing resiliency needs. So the large green space, closer, like in this rendering, it shows an example of movies in the park. The idea is that that edge would be just a bit tapered up so that there is some natural flow and runoff, so that, you know, the park is very well drained, but can also, the lawn, but can also be used to capture a lot of that stormwater runoff.
Good. Just
From a hospitality standpoint, the outside of the restaurant, the little concession, the snack areas are really important because that's going to bring everyone into the park, and varied things is also, I think, important as you go to think about like a beer vendor or a pastry vendor and a coffee shop. All those little things will get people in there all day. And if you think about it, there's nowhere to go have a meeting and go get a coffee outside in Fort Lauderdale in like a park setting that's not part of a restaurant. So it's a tremendous opportunity.
We're really excited. We just reached out to probably a dozen or so local, you know, hospitality folks that either have these kind of pop-up kiosks or brick and mortar to start to solicit their feedback so we can understand what we don't know and start to get that market feedback.
Yeah, that's a smart way to think about it.
And we'd encourage any of you that would love to give us some of that intel as well, and we can connect.
How big is the restaurant building ultimately?
So the pad this will be a land lease, DDA property is a little over 2.2 acres, but this whole site is about 4.4. So we have about a 5,100 square foot pad that we'll be delivering as part of a land lease with an additional 2,500 square feet of outdoor dining space. That could be in part of the Riverwalk or city property or part of the park. But that's the pad that we're delivering. And then we anticipate that this will be a 2-level restaurant, perhaps with a 3rd level of kind of outdoor seating where you can take advantage of views on the river. But again, that's all being looked at.
Yeah, to that point, there are some restaurants that are a little loud that are on the river. And so the important part here was to be respectful of, you know, because we heard this from our stakeholder meetings is, you know, it's not a rooftop bar, you know, nightclub up there. So, you know, it just, we're listening to the stakeholders. So, you know, these guys, they operate great restaurants that, you know, their percentage of food to booze is higher. So it's not just a bar. So that was important. We heard that from a lot of residents.
Steve, too, I mean, we have parking.
May I ask a question, Steve?
Yes, sorry. Can't hold that thought. Go,
Hi,
Jody.
It's Jody. Hey, guys, this is so exciting. I'm thrilled to hear all this. It's great. But I just wanted to go back just a little bit. I know you put the arts a little bit on hold for the art in public places. But like, is there going to be like areas for live music, for a little bandstand kind of thing? Or is there going to be any kind of piped music at all throughout the park?
I'm trying to refresh my memory. Do we have music at the fountain? Or do we?
Yeah.
I can't remember if we did that.
The fountain originally had music that was coordinated with the Jets.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, you had to install a CD to make that work. So that doesn't work anymore. But yes, we're trying to incorporate, well, we do have areas where there can be small performances. But you know, any type of piped in music, I don't think we've really discussed that yet.
Okay.
No, not the music part, but Jody, to your point, the slide that's on there now is showing, you know, a movie in the park. If you flip that around 180 degrees, we have some renderings with the stage next to the fountain with all of the lawn seats for that. So there's different ways to do events here that, again, it's a multi-purpose instead of having just that big band shell that really obstructed your view to the water.
Fantastic. I'm very excited.
Some type of sound throughout, I would think.
Well, for like that, you'd have
Yeah.
big speakers and all that other stuff. But sorry, Ken, go ahead.
I was just saying, just thinking through, and I don't know if you're talking about the restaurant side, but just with the parking, I mean, is there gonna be any kind of parking requirement with them? Is obviously city garage, FAU, I mean, they're possibly the plan in the future.
Yeah.
So like, it'd be important not to tie any parking requirements into that lease.
I don't believe that there are. No, I don't think there are for downtown. So, but yeah, I understand that.
Jenny, I know that Andrews Bridge is getting the lighting installation. What's the timeline on that? How does that align with kind of the work that you'll be doing under the bridge?
Great question, Joe. So Broward County Cultural Division has a public art project that's underway, at least has been designed to light up the piers, the columns of the bridge that are in the water. But we're working with Phil and others to try to extend that. So under the bridge, potentially the lighting art project could extend into that area. I don't know the timing for implementation, but I know it's in the process.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close.
All right, Elizabeth, you're gonna walk us through.
Yes. And as Elizabeth gets started, I just want to say, today is really the intent to lay out this project. We understand that, some of you may say, yes, I want to be part of this foundation. Others may just continue to be our partners and pushing this project forward. So we do have some business items to cover. But, again, thank you for being here. I'm going to let Elizabeth kick it off now.
Sure. So you heard that part of our funding strategy is the 5 million capital campaign. So we formed this foundation in April, really with the goal of raising capital dollars, but also O&M. And, hopefully this foundation will be, here for the life of this park for many, many years. We did hold a directors meeting on April 18th that consisted of Jenny, Steve and I, because we had to get the foundation docs into the state to start this process. We were approved for the solicitations for the state level. So, we're official, that's good news. But following today's actions, you'll see we have some actual, documents we need to approve to then submit through the federal 501c3 determination process. And that's what really allows the contributions to be considered charitable. We're being told that it's a 2 to potentially 8-month process. We're going to try to, make this as expedited as possible. And Gary is going to help us with that. We don't anticipate that this is an organization that would have any issues to get the charitable, status. But we will have in the pledge forms all the disclaimer language that we are going through the process. But our understanding is once we submit the application, which hopefully will be within the next couple of days, that's when the date is that it would be effective, for charitable contributions. So the funding goal and milestone schedule, we do have the $5 million goal, and all contributions that will be made to the foundation will be transferred to the DDA because the DDA will be paying the contractor directly. And there will be all kinds of checks and balances with audits and documentation that we'll be able to provide to the foundation. We're obviously prefer lump sum contributions, but we anticipate there will be multi-year pledges. And, what that'll do is allow us to go to the bank market to go solicit a loan. We will receive the full design construction docs by September 16th for the park. And that will be turned over to our construction manager at risk contractor to prepare a guaranteed max price proposal to give to us by mid-October. So between October and the end of the year, the hope is we will negotiate a contract with them. So the goal for the 5 million is really to try to have all the pledges in by January. We know it's aggressive. So that we would be in a position to be able to execute the contract with the contractor by February to start the construction of the project. We are looking at phasing, what we might need to do for that in the event that we don't make that goal, but we're very hopeful. And so I think that's it for that.
Just trying to think of anything to add. No, we're really trying to fast track this as best we can. With our constraints, but these foundations and partnerships, it's worked really well at Birch State Park. So it was kind of a little bit of a model for us. Friends of Birch have done great things at that park that relying just solely on the state would never have happened. So again, I appreciate you being here. This foundation, as Elizabeth said, the idea is to provide as the park is operating, but to be able to provide kind of a leadership role in the management of the park as we see it, along with obviously DDA, the owner of the park. So Where are we on our schedule here?
So I think for the expectations of this board, that's often a question I'm asked when people even say if they're gonna attend a meeting or not. We're really looking for partners that can help advocate for the vision of the park first and foremost, to make sure that the excitement about the transformation of this is spread throughout the community. With that, also helping solicit, donors and contributions, whether that's directly through foundation members or through the relationships that you all have. We do anticipate that we'll have, a handful of events over the next 6 months. Everything from potentially, an early demolition of the very, ill maintained amphitheater, to really celebrate kind of turning dirt for this project, to maybe dinner under the stars at the park for potential fundraiser events and contributions. So participating in those kind of events, maybe even assisting and helping connect the right people with other events. In terms of meetings, formal business meetings for the foundation, I think we estimate a minimum of 2 per year. So we look to have another one this fall as well. But from a time commitment, I think that's really the question. I don't see this, and I think Steve and I have discussed that this is a real, time need for any of you, but just a way to participate in, telling this story, helping connect the right dots for us as a foundation in the community. I think it's important because we have seen philanthropy in this community so successful for, social services, for health, wellness, for different populations, and for our civic jewels like Broward Center, Mods, Parker. But we haven't really yet seen in this community for public space. You did mention Birch, which is a great example, but something so visible that I think is used by so many. So it's also trying to tell that story of why it's important to invest in this public space.
That's a great point, because you said there's been a lot of money in those other areas. So I think this park telling how they're going to benefit those other areas like health, wellness, social equity. I think the art piece, that has to be like strong for certain donors. The cultural piece, the recreation, and that becomes the why. So that has to be like in your face, sort of like tugging at people's heartstrings on why this is going to make a difference to actual people, in addition to all of the great downtown feel.
Yeah, I agree. I think creating a family environment downtown is really important for the long-term sustainability. Probably one thing that is missing, and that's what a park brings.
Huge. It's all there. It just needs to be like
right
front.
We have the development, we have grocery, but we do need public space to create that.
And I think the messaging is exactly where we're now ready to go, right? So today is kind of, here's the vision. This book is really just laying out that vision of the park, but it doesn't tell the story yet. This is really for you all to kind of get your hands around what we're looking to do to reimagine the space, but the why, and why does it matter? I think that's the narrative that now after today's meeting, we're going to start putting together, speaking to each of you, helping explain that story. And then we have, a solid platform to go out and explain this more broadly than just pretty pictures. Good points.
This is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it really
incredible.
is.
So just needs, like you said, the why method. Is there a marketing company that could be pro bono to help with the?
Evenings here.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna say before my boss spoke up, I was gonna say, no, we are happy to help put together material. And I know that this is far down the road, but considering how this will bring an additional level of safety to downtown, the oversight of the park, a safe area for people to be entertained. I'm sure I'm not sure if you've thought about it, but managing the park, the events, monetizing that in some way, shape, or form down the road would bring a lot of value to downtown. I think that would be great for people to know and understand.
Oh, the resiliency piece too.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think most people are going to understand what that means to be able to move water throughout a space like that and let it retain water and
right.
Those things, just explaining to the common. And we do have business leaders and potential donors very concerned about water.
Anybody who has a business
Yeah.
residence on Las Olas knows that when those floods come,
Yeah.
That part is gonna be really important.
So it's
Jenny,
on
we
sunny
can
days.
probably help with the distribution of that marketing material, especially, with an advertising schedule. I mean, we have 80% of the buildings here on the Las Olas area. So, if we could do television campaigns, maybe do a longer video with some of these pieces, QR code them, host it on demand, get materials inside, all of the condo units that we support. And we can help with that.
Wonderful. What we found in our research is, of course, there's, a formal donor campaign, but there's also kind of a grassroots approach, and it may be very minimal to the overall goal. But again, it's a public park. So how do we create ownership within the community of this space and getting it out to the end users, so to speak, the community members is going to be very important.
Jenny, I had a question or just a thought. Going back to Birch State Park and some of the things that were part of that, what brought that community together, just a lot of the touch points of ultimately people want to know how will it make my life different, and very simple ways of communication, right? Also, the young professionals are very, very important. I remember the group of young professionals that were involved in Birch State was very, it was great to see the community, especially in this park, just because there's so many businesses around and so many young professionals that are living, renting, owning downtown, who have their dogs, who may be starting young families. So how is that going to impact me in 2024? Right. So I think that when we do think about from the marketing side, I think that is a huge part of the demographic we need to hit, for sure.
Great comments, Jamie.
And just a quick Peg Marker from Marker Construction just joined us. She's there. Hello, Peg.
Hey, Steve.
All right. Quick.
I just had one other question on that. This is great, all these naming opportunities.
I was gonna get to that.
Oh, okay, I was
No,
gonna ask you,
you're good.
what are you thinking as far as, are you looking for a certain number of donors?
So the idea was not to have everything named, not every bush and tree and bench. Which works. Listen, it's just not, that was the vision here was, larger gifts, investments in those different areas. So we've started to tag some dollar numbers to that, and we're quite ready to put those out there yet, though. So.
And technology, I would be remiss for coming and not asking about that. Is that built into this capital plan? Or what are your thoughts about?
Yes, the entire park will have Wi-Fi. So that we'd love to sit and talk with you a little bit more in detail with our design team and how to be sure that that all works together.
I mean, maybe it's something that we could do part of it through our foundation. As an extension of the learning that is being done, with the Museum of Discovery and Science and things that would take place in terms of activations in the park. So, let's scope that out and see what we can do to help.
Wonderful.
That includes access to electricity. When I did a lot of programming in parks in North Miami, that was always the problem. There was no, you'd have run these enormous cables.
The intent definitely is to be plug and play for events and for setup, and so to have strategic outlet locations, the appropriate level of electricity. But I think we've made a conscious decision not to have just charging stations throughout the park, because in some cases that does draw some undesirable activities. So plug and play, but not all the time.
We can also probably take that managed Wi-Fi concept and help show you how you can monetize it. Right, with splash pages, collecting data and information for further marketing and activation. So let me get our team together and we'll see if we can get a meeting with you and start scoping it out.
May I ask another question real quick, Steve?
Go, Jody.
I wanted to discuss, I haven't heard it brought up, but about the lighting in the park. And, it's very critical in our downtown area. So can you address that a little?
Very well lit. I guess that's the best way to put it. I'm not a lighting expert, but Perkins and Will have gone through there with their consultant, and the lighting is what do you call it? Non obtrusive. So the poles go away. It's all kind of built in, so it looks nice and it is well lit. But that's a very good point. Going back, that just goes really back to that safety issue of the park. and that, so, thank you.
Will it be secure?
Steve,
Yes.
are you guys gonna do, you know, like on the college campuses, they have those emergency kind of blue boxes or those like poles that the kids can just hit it and the cops come? Are you doing something like that throughout the park?
We haven't talked about it, but yeah, I'm sure that it's somewhere in the plan, so.
And
Or it will be.
part of the
It
operations,
is now.
management and business model for this park is to have, you know, an entity through the foundation ultimately that somebody who wakes up every day and is responsible for the successful operation of this park. Through contracts, through staff, no matter what. And that's needed in these urban parks that are highly functioning and draw so many people. City departments just can't take on the level of maintenance, operations and management of these kind of public parks. So, you know, park ambassadors, full-time maintenance, somebody who's, you know, making sure the planting beds are consistently maintained, the trash is taken. I mean, you name it. That's the level that we're going for. And again, we've learned so much from great cities around the country that do this well.
Yeah, in the programming, again, you know, 6 a.m. yoga or, you know, 8 o'clock meditation and all the way through the end of the day to, you know, the last yoga class maybe is at 10 or there's a, you know, book reading or something. So, you know, there's always people, there's always movement through the park and that provides so much, you know, safety in itself.
Is there gonna be staff hired to manage the park, or is it the DDA staff?
So Elizabeth will lead the
Seems like a
yoga
full-time
class, serve the coffee at the kiosk.
Meditation right here.
Keep on the lawn. Yes, exactly. So the Huizenga Park Foundation, once the park is built, will transition into that management entity responsible for operations, maintenance, programming. And that's been the discussion with the city as well. So the city for the past 6+ years has been responsible for maintenance of our park through a lease agreement that we have. We've demonstrated to them that this model is what drives success in urban parks. And so, you know, there will be staff. And again, that staff person is going to be responsible for ensuring that not just through the restaurant revenue lease, but through, you know, the foundation and the operations and through the concessions and the events, that there's a successful and sufficient revenue stream to support this park.
Is that why we're all here for different shifts?
Now I'm starting to agree. We can put this.
I'm gonna roll Monday with you Friday, you're rolling us. You know, like any foundation, you know, there's the expectation of give or get for the funding. And again, we were looking for 5 million. You know, we personally have a family foundation. Have not decided where we're going to be in this, but supporting the park. You know, our staff is going to be at 100% participation. Our board is going to be at 100% participation. So all of those are you know, very positives for this. So I guess I got to call kind of the question is, you know, we've heard kind of the expectations and where we're going, what we're doing. You know, at this point, nobody's run out the building yet, but you know, the ask was to come listen. My ask now is, you know, who wants to commit to being on the foundation board? Because we have our attorney here and we have some actions that need to be taken so that we can file. And it's listed on here. So.
And I'll start out by proxy. Seth Wise was unable to make it this morning, but has confirmed this morning to me that wants to be the first to say he's on.
Who's that?
Seth Wise.
Seth Wise.
Yes.
Well, he's actually second.
I'm sorry.
He's the first here.
That's right.
So it's kind of like somehow I was chair of voluntold, but I gladly. So is there anybody that's not comfortable for whatever reason serving on the board? You know, at least for this initial first year to get us moving, and you know, as far as meetings with potential donors, you know, myself always available. Jenny, Elizabeth, whoever needs to be there. And any doors and that you can open. So I don't know if there are conflicts, you know, again, through your businesses or that, but.
We're good. Broward Health is also good. So personally, and the organization, this is great for the community. So we're happy.
Well, I wasn't letting you go.
I'd like to abstain, Steve. As a resident at the Las Olas River House, I think it would be a perceived conflict, and I'd like to be able to advocate in a positive manner to that building, that this is a wonderful thing, and I think that would take the bias out. So I would like to support you every way I can without sitting on the board. I'll be your #1 advocate, but I think I can do a better job to encourage the people in our building, which are a tough crowd, that this is the right thing to do.
That would be great. We need an ally in that building, Kathy, so thank you.
Yeah, Steve, a huge supporter, but being in the museum and doing a little bit of fundraising here and there, definitely want to support, but I can't be on the board.
Understood.
Thank you. Though.
I think it might be, and somebody mentioned, getting some of the youth involved. There might be an advisory board that also, and we can all meet, but the foundation board does their own business, but so that's a place that we'd love to have you and Kathy and that.
Our young leaders would love to be involved.
This would be great for them.
Yeah, us too.
Okay. Is that it? All right, understood. So, did somebody take roll? Yes, Kareem?
I'm here to do whatever you need me to do.
Again, I want to let you go either.
Well, I think before we end this meeting, at least to let Elizabeth and I know, yes, formal on the foundation or not. I know not everyone's kind of gone around. If we'd like to right now, we certainly could.
Well,
or-
I was just looking at the actions that we need to take
Okay,
and get those business points taken care of. As Elizabeth's been hounding me for like a month, so we gotta get it all done.
hey,
That's true. That is true.
okay.
So I think one of the actions as it relates to the bylaws is the roster of members, but also the officers. And I think right now it's currently Steve is the chair, Jenny is the president, and I'm the vice president. And if it's at the will of the board, we'll keep those, but we're also looking for a secretary and a treasurer and a vice chair. If anyone wants to volunteer for any of those roles.
And again, I don't think there's any real lift involved in that. It's just within the documentation itself. If Steve is not available, you would serve as chair in your vice chair role.
Somebody volunteers or I'm gonna have to appoint.
I'm happy to.
Wonderful.
Excuse me.
And just formality, I'll take the foundation spot. Adrian is not required, but she's here for all the support.
She's here to do all the work. I'm happy to assist in any way.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay,
And Steve, I'd like to be the regular board member, so you can count me in on the board, but not in that. Okay.
thank you.
What would the treasurer and secretary do?
Not much.
Sign checks.
Yeah.
I'll nominate you. Congratulations. The motion.
And I think for the most part, I'll probably be doing a lot of the minutes and.
Then I'll be.
Since I actually.
Very light load.
Yeah.
Yes.
An opportunity for communities to push things forward, like
Absolutely.
PR and marketing.
Yes.
other
Work
items.
on that.
I'm happy to also.
I'm happy to join.
Which one? Treasurer.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Anywhere I can support also from the marketing standpoint, promoting, all of that, that's, I think, my best suited role.
Thank you, Peggy.
So the next order of business, again, would be the business side, the approval of the organizational resolution, which is attached.
That's essentially our minutes from the April 18th meeting and what we did formally to start this. We'll ask for just a motion to approve, but if I could jump backwards real quick, we just wanted also a motion to approve the check signing authority, which would be the chair and the president. So we have a double check signing system
I'll
for
move
any. Okay, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very no motion about it.
Thinking about it, but.
Now you can keep going.
Okay, then the resolution, which is behind the agenda, and the organizational meeting that we had. It's all pretty boilerplate information. If anybody has any comments, or if I can get a motion to approve the organizational resolution.
Motion to approve?
All right.
Second.
Hearing a motion a second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. And then ratification of conflict of interest policy, which is that here?
Second to last page. Third page.
Is that only if you're on the board? On the foundation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, this is just for the foundation for members of official listed officers. And I will say that we will be purchasing the board and officers insurance for everyone on the.
Yeah, we can cover everything. I think it does, though, but it's good to-
It doesn't cover any fees.
No.
That's well done.
Ask how you found that out.
Trouble.
Take a moment to review.
It's exciting, birth of a whole new organization. Yeah.
Yes, years to come, you say, I was there. at the Beginning.
That's what's so great about our community. Everyone wants to do the right thing. Well, and those-
Bullshit.
And again, this two pager, the conflict of interest that starts on page 3, this is standard boilerplate for nonprofits that we've established through typical.
I'm good with it. You'll just submit something for us to sign electronically or however and get it back to you.
Yes, yes.
There's a formal motion.
Sure. So moved.
So moved. Any motion to have a second?
Sign. Okay.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right,
Let me even read it.
let's see here.
The page that follows.
What is the amendment to the bylaws?
Sure, so we're gonna update the roster of officers and new board members. And we also changed it to align with our fiscal year, so it's October 1 through September 30th. And we reduced the number of meetings that are required, so we just did a minimum of 2 per year. From what we submitted to the state and April. So I'll make all those changes per the discussion today, and that's what'll get submitted.
Any comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Your full motion.
Well, no one else is jumping with
Second.
Second. I think Ms. Tanner seconded.
I had it, Tanner second, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then approval of the budget, which is on the last page. There really isn't much to it. Sorry, you're not getting paid. So. Any comments on the budget?
Yeah.
Hearing none. What's that?
How comfortable are you with the construction right now? So have you got preliminary pricing or?
Yes, let's talk about the pricing.
So the $15 million estimate came at the 60% design plans, so, things will change.
How long is it?
That was probably 2 months ago. In April, so a little bit longer. But as Elizabeth
Yeah.
mentioned, we do have a construction manager at risk under contract that has been providing these cost estimates, and they'll give a guaranteed maximum price end of September, I believe, early October. We can either decide to go with that and it'll be open book, so we'll see what all those cost estimates are for the different elements of the project. Or we can then decide to go out and bid the project.
Who's the construction manager?
Burkhart Construction, they do a lot of these kind of public realm, public space projects in the region.
We also continue to value engineer. Plus, there was a massive contingency in there, so.
It doesn't include the rest.
It does not, I'm glad,
Yeah.
this does not include the restaurant. We will deliver a pad. The restaurateur will be responsible for the full build out of their vertical restaurant, their space.
I was gonna mention, you remember Ken Stapleton, who's a safety consultant? He
Yes.
actually moved and I was devastated and he moved back.
Okay.
So if
So
you.
now you're okay?
No, but I was gonna say, if you need another set of eyes on the whole safety plan,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
he's also just such a good guy.
So the timing of the restaurants to coincide with the park.
That's our goal, that the restaurant entity, and we mentioned when the lease is official, we'll announce all of that, but they want to move hand in hand, step in step with us so that we can all open together.
Yeah, they want to open as soon as possible as well, so.
Where are they
Let me say
based?
what?
I think in September.
They're based in California, but after this restaurant is open, they will have more operations in Florida than California. They started in California.
So they
You
currently
can't tell
have
us if they are in
operations.
Florida, which is like. almost-
Well, is it the best restaurant company in the world? That's also based in California, that has a lot of restaurants in Florida.
Well, I'm sorry.
There's an amazing restaurant company based in California that has a big presence in Florida, so that would be
would that
tremendous
be?
for the city. Houston's, Hillstone,
We tried.
yeah.
That was my goal.
Well, if you stay on the foundation, we might be able to tell you a little.
Then they'll have to kill you.
There you go. Tease it up.
That would be great.
Okay. So I need to approve, did we approve the budget or no?
No, we did not.
Okay, we need to approve the budget.
The treasurer will approve the budget.
Okay. All right,
Second by
motion and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, business is concluded. So, any other comments, questions, concerns? I guess I'll just start off just a minute by saying, again, thank you for being here and thank you for, stepping up and being a part of the foundation and, and it is a commitment and we're gonna look to you guys to help us get to this 5 million. With that in mind, start thinking about, companies, people that all of that. I certainly do look at this as an investment and not a donation. And that's the way that I think that we need to really portray that to potential donors that, you're investing in our downtown and our livelihood. So anyway, so I open it up to you all.
Is there a packet of any sort that has anything, about, the dollar amounts that are like, we're looking for any specific increments or, obviously. the
We're working
larger
on
the
all of
better,
that.
But
And we'll get that all to you.
And all the fundraisers are already thinking.
Yes, that's good. That's good stuff.
You have this that you can share and if you.
We have it electronically as well. Yes.
And maybe a one pager with just some main message points, so everyone's really on the same page
Right.
and there isn't any confusion. Kind of to launch that sort of PR side of the campaign. And
I
raising
don't want to
money.
bring up the red anthill too, but the homeless issue might come up, like what's the
The
current
safety
state
plan, I
of
think that we mentioned
the
before. would be
city
really
and how
important.
that's going and how this park fits into that plan.
That element, as you know, that element is always part of downtown. The security and the activation from the park experts. That's really what kind of keeps that element out of the park. So that people are more comfortable using the park.
I just feel like that might be a question.
I'm sure. Well, especially with the bathrooms, that has been almost the universal questions. All right, so how do you keep the homeless out of the bathrooms? And it's more of, it's attended, it's clean,
So the park is there. And then this project is improving it to curb everything that you're doing in terms of design, this is.
And the lighting's always gonna be there, whether an event is happening or not.
Correct.
So it's always gonna be something.
What is the technicality? So we have security. The DDA owns the park. It's not a private park. Can you actually kick somebody out of the park?
With this improvement and with an attendant, ambassadors, you do have the opportunity to kind of scoot folks along. Our intent is that this acts like a public park and it very much is. But we have that oversight then through this management and operation entity.
That's good. And so people who want to do an activation in the park, other entities would lease it from you.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Or currently.
And the
it's through the
existing
city.
groups that do things there, you think we'll be able to work with the new plan?
Yes. We're talking to some. There may not be an opportunity to bring 5,000 people back in when, everybody just kind of takes over the full park. But we think that there's a good balance to still draw large crowds, but not make it, one dimensional for just those big
There's
spaces.
an opportunity to elevate it.
That's right.
Right now, it's like races, that's the only crowd that really.
A lot of
gets that,
5Ks.
Right,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
5K central, so now you have an opportunity to push that somewhere else and do something better.
Yeah, and events really large and small.
That's
So if it's a ticketed event, for instance, they could do that. They lease the space, they permit it, it's ticketed, just like every Laura Ward Park, we do that all the time, right?
And that's what they're doing now?
Yeah, they put a fence usually around it, and then the renter has provides security as part of the.
And we mentioned Dan Biederman Redevelopment Ventures. They've kind of given us an initial playbook on how you do that well. So it's predictable both for the park entity, but also for the user, for the renter, and everything is, people are coming in with all their own fencing and bathrooms and, it's a very prescriptive approach. So we maintain kind of the elegant status of this park and it's better for maintenance and operation.
So it's good for the museum, because right now, when they put up that chain link, it looks terrible for the museum.
You know how there was Mockingbird Trail and Lauderdale Trail, and now it's just Lauderdale Trail. Is there any connectivity? I haven't kept up with that.
Absolutely. We're talking to the city's transportation department and others, how we really link in what's happening with the Las Olas corridor plan, the visioning of that all the way through the shops, north and south on Andrews Avenue and even Third Avenue, connecting to Tunnel Top Park. So definitely.
You had mentioned before that the city has been responsible for the past 6 years. What do you see going forward after it's completed? Is there a level of commitment other than the $5 million?
We're also having those conversations. That was kind of step 2. We wanted to ensure that they were supportive of an upfront capital contribution, but we intend to take over full operations management and maintenance of all 4.4 acres, not even just R2 plus. So I think through that, there will be city contribution towards the maintenance and operation of the full space.
I think that's really important for raising money is, I mean, no offense to the city, but I think if it's somewhat of a private entity maintaining this, it's gonna go a lot farther.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone from 100 Las Olas and on this committee or from the Hyatt?
Not here, but we work very closely with Josh Morris, the general manager, with and I'm going to forget his name right now, but the head of the 100 Las Olas Residents Association. There's the Property Owners Association of all 4 of the properties. So through our stakeholder efforts, we've been reaching out with all of these folks.
Since they're the immediate neighbor.
So I think from today, really what we'll send to each of you is the electronic package of this information, the 1-pager. But in the next 2 weeks, what we'll be working on is the messaging that we all described, the actual kind of naming opportunities and different, kind of investment points for those. So we can really start to formalize this campaign. But today will be follow up through just kind of the information sharing of what we've put together now. So we're all on the same page with those talking points and what the vision is.
Might be a good idea to hold a small business community event, to showcase what you guys are trying to do and get the businesses involved and trying to create something
That would be great. We'd love to talk. We had our stakeholder meeting at FAU several months ago, and we were anticipating having another one in September.
Maybe we
We
do it right here
received
at
about 150 residents that showed up, but we didn't really engage with kind of the employees, the workers, the business community downtown. So I think we have opportunities there.
It's a great way for businesses to engage their employees, and especially new businesses that are new to downtown. Either coming from Miami or out of market, but to engage their employees and say that they're doing something important for the corridor.
That's great.
They're coming from markets like Chicago and New York.
Right.
They're probably more accustomed to spending money on
On
parks than
stuff
we
like
are,
this.
right?
That's right.
So they might have the right culture for this.
And it's so easy to, as a morale booster and engaging, employee engagement program. It really ties into just being present in downtown and these businesses having an impact. I think employees really, they respond to that and businesses know that. So presentations for business specifically might be a good idea.
I also think it's important for us to start thinking about dates for the fundraising events we may want to do. So I think that's something that we should address sooner than later. Whether it's 1 or 2, let's just put them out on the calendar and then start working towards that. We want something for this season, right?
That's right.
Agreed.
Good
Good point.
So I think there'll be some follow-up individual calls, but we do look to hold our next meeting, maybe have a lunch on October 5th, I think, Steve, is what the date we looked at. We'll send that back out. Hopefully many of you can make it. We need to adjust if not everyone can come, but that would be kind of our next come together meeting as the foundation, and we'll hold a luncheon. We'll send out all those details, but in the meantime, between now and then, packaging our information for the campaign, having some of these follow-up conversations, Peggy, like you just mentioned, to start talking about the type of events, the timing, and just really putting this all together. So thank you from my seat here.
You may not want to do October 5th because that's Yom Kippur.
I'm sorry?
Yom Kippur is on
Oh,
October
okay.
5th, so scratch that maybe.
Never mind.
We'll
That's
find
fine.
another date.
Yep. Early October, we were thinking, so.
Maybe Thanksgiving Day would be.
Again, thank you all for being here, virtually or in person. It truly means a lot to me, again, personally. So thank you all. And I'm out of here 4 minutes early, so we'll try to be respectful of your time. So, thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
How are you? Yes.
Jokes. Well, now it's real.
After you guys. Like our office.
Ah.
And so he's on our Fort Lauderdale Forum committee and.